Good evening, everyone. It's kind of a later video before I hit the hay. I'm trying to get some good rest tonight if possible. Um, but got quite a few things in my mind that I'm going to share with you all. Some things you may not be aware of unless you're really paying attention to news that may not be that popular or prevalent. I didn't say relevant, I said prevalent. you know, Stuff that's not out there for everybody to see, and because they water everything down, or they only tell you what they want you to know, or show you what they want you to see. But there's a few things on my mind here that I'm going to make people aware of, unless you're already aware of it. But my guess is a lot of people probably don't know about some of this stuff. So the first thing I'm going to say is it's kind of a hodgepodge of information tonight. The first thing I'm going to say is there's something happening in New York State right now that I'm very intrigued about. I'm very interested in because I have some experience in this area. See, um, people that have listened to me from the previous channel that was taken down, that came over to this channel, quite a bit of my background, my history, things I've talked about over the last, 6 years now, almost 6 years on this on while being on YouTube. So some of this you're going to be familiar with, but I have got quite a few new subscribers, people that probably don't know a whole lot about me from the previous channel, or have listened to me for very long. So some of this information is going to be new. And even those of you who have listened to me for quite a while, this might be a good refresher or reminder. But yeah, what's going on in New York State now? I'm kind of familiar with, and I say New York State because it is. It's the whole state, but it's specifically New York City where uh, I guess is getting the most attention here, and it has to do with corrections. It has to do with state corrections. I haven't heard too much about federal, but state corrections and so forth. There's a major strike going on right now where I don't know how many correctional officers have walked off the job. And it's happened, it's kind of going on for, I think, about a couple of weeks now. But some have returned, the majority have not. And Governor Hochul up in New York has had to deploy about 6,500 National Guard to do the job that correctional officers are technically trained to do and paid to do, but they're on strike. And apparently the union is not supporting their strike. Um, and the reason that they're on strike is because the correctional officers, from what I can gather, and the information that I'm seeing and hearing the reports and watching the press conferences, is simply the correctional officers do not feel safe in their work. That the inmates have more rights than they do, and that they are majorly overworked, 12, 16 plus hour shifts, hardly any time off at all, and even get called in on their days off because they're so understaffed, and they feel very unsafe in doing their work. And um, I guess you could literally say the inmates are running the asylum. But Governor Hochul there seems to be more concerned with inmate safety and the rights of the inmates than the correctional officers. At least that's what it appears. But it goes even deeper than that, you know. And, this is something I'm familiar with, like I said, for people who have listened to me for, the last several months, years, or whatever. my background is interesting. Let's just put it that way. It may be more interesting than some people's, may not be as interesting than other people's, but it's interesting because by the time I was 18 years old, I'm 54 now, be 55 in July, Lord willing. But by the time when I was 18, that's when I left home, joined the Navy and whatnot. And I was in the medical field for quite a period of time as a Navy corpsman and then, as an EMT and so forth. But in 2003, um, I went to the police academy and, I became a police officer for a period of time. I was in law enforcement for a period of time, and that also included federal corrections. And, my law enforcement time, you know, outside of security work, was basically from 2003 to 2010 from civilian and military reserve, law enforcement, Navy Reserve law enforcement. So I was active duty as a Navy corpsman, and then in the reserves, I was military police, master at arms, they call it in the Navy. But anyway, from in 2007 to 2008, I actually worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was a correctional officer, and I only did it for a year. A year was long enough, because I was in the federal penitentiary, and in the federal system, you have the woman's camp, they call it. Okay, I've never there. You have what's called the low facility, the medium, and then you have the maximum, which is the federal penitentiary. And so I was with lifers, uh, murderers. Uh, wow, uh, people that would commit the most heinous and diabolical and demonic crimes. And a lot of times, most of the time, I would not read the records of the inmates. I had access to them, but I didn't because sometimes I didn't. It was debatable. Some people say I want to know what these people did to why they put them in there, But most of the time, if you just listened, you would hear what people did. They would talk about it. Some of them would even brag about their crimes, or they would just other correctional officers would talk about certain inmates or whatever. And, hey, this guy did this, and this guy this, and stay away from them, and da 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 da. So, because it's a very interesting job, so I really understand where these correctional officers are coming from because I never felt safe. Um, when you would walk into the federal penitentiary, you were one correctional officer per a housing unit that could be go up to 128 inmates if it was a completely full housing unit, which is insane, right? Absolutely insane because you have no weapons, obviously, because they can take them away from you and use them on you. What you had was a radio and what they would call a body alarm, which is like a red button on top of the radio that if there was a major issue, you just simply hit that button and people would come running eventually for to rescue you. It was crazy. It was really insane. So you had to demand and command respect right off the bat. Uh, you could not show any fear or hesitation because, I mean, not comparing inmates to dogs, but like a dog, in a way, they could sense fear. They could tell. They could tell who was green. They could tell he was new. And there was massive turnover. I mean, major turnover. Because a lot of people couldn't do this job, didn't want to do the job. The pay was really good, the benefits were good, but it was crazy. And at the time, 2007, 2008, I had my wife and I, we still do have two children, they're adults now, but At the time, my son was 7, my daughter was 4, you know. So I had very, very young children. Um, and, you know, like I said, a year was long enough in doing this. But I remember there were days, I mean, the Lord has just blessed my family and I tremendously and kept me safe from a lot of harm, not only in the prison system, you know, working as a federal correctional officer, but on patrol, you know, as a police officer, as well as, you know, many years of security. Did a lot of security work for about, oh, I don't know how long, about 12 years, something like that. Um, so I was protected a lot. But I'll tell you what, man, there were days going into that prison that you just didn't know if you were going to leave alive. I mean, you know, you were constantly threatened. Even if they did like you to a certain extent or tolerate you, you always felt threatened. You always felt unsafe because some of these dudes had nothing to lose. A lot of them, they just wanted to, they accepted their sentence, they accepted their time, and they just figured, hey, you know, I'm a lifer. You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, kind of thing, and everything's cool, you know. But others, they were kind of crazy, and they didn't mind getting locked up in what they would call solitary confinement. We call it the SHU, a special housing unit, SHU, special housing unit, and that's where your really violent criminals would go, and those that would threaten other inmates or try to kill other inmates, sometimes successfully, or injure. Um, that's where they would go, as your special housing unit. And listening to his press conference, the officers feel very, very unsafe, and they feel like their concerns are not being heard. And like I said, apparently the union is not supporting their concerns, so they walked off the job, and the National Guard has come in to take over, and they're not trained to do this, but apparently they're doing the best they can under the circumstances. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if this can happen in New York, it could happen in any state. It could happen anywhere. And it's very interesting listening to this press conference because it's almost like they want to segregate New York and they want to turn the majority of the state red, their words, you know, like turn it into a red state and just let New York City fall off into the ocean. That's what one man said, okay? Because they're so sick of what they refer to as the liberal policies that are destroying their state. And, you know, um, it's just insanity. It's lawlessness. It's chaos. And I personally believe that New York City is Babylonian headquarters, okay? Mystery Babylonian headquarters. That's my personal belief, okay? So this is not surprising to me. But it is interesting to see the press conference and hear the press conference and hear what they're saying and so forth, because I can relate to it. I can relate to it firsthand because of the things that I experienced. And you know, one of the sad things is where you should get help from the lieutenants or the other correctional officers or whatever, it may or may not come. Sometimes people are in it for themselves and they're very cocky and arrogant and they figure they did their time or whatever else. Now it's time for you to do yours. And it's not a very good teamwork environment. I mean, it can be, but it just depends on how people look at things. Because, like I said, you are one correctional officer per housing unit of about 128 hardened inmates in a federal penitentiary. That's the insanity of this situation. So that people probably don't know about, they're probably not aware of. Now, it may have changed. I kind of doubt it. I don't know, this was 2007, 2008 for me. It's a long time ago, a long time ago now. But, for those people that still work in the federal system, or, you know, and, or have, what I'm talking about. Especially now with everything going on where people have to justify their existence, they have to justify their jobs, justify what they did last week in an email. Everybody's probably heard these stories, the whole must doge thing, what did you do last week? Justify your existence, fill out this form or whatever, report to us what you did, and why we should keep you on, you should keep your job, and so forth. Well, I can tell you firsthand why correctional officers are needed and keep their job. Because here's the other thing, and need to keep their job. Here's the other thing is in lockdown situations where an inmate is killed by another inmate, or there's prison riots, prison fights, whatever, gang riots, gang fights, what have you, and everybody gets locked down, it sucks for the correctional officers. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the inmates get locked in their cells. Well, who do you think cleans up after them? Who do you think feeds them to the food slots? Who do you think collects all their garbage? And when they can't shower, because they'll be locked down for quite a while, sometimes, man, they could have 2 3 month lockdowns. It's crazy. And until the warden feels that, okay, it's safe to let everybody out again, oh man, they clean themselves up inside inside their cells, and then they flood their cells, and all the water pours out through the doors and everything. Well, who do you think sweeps all that up, mops up all that water? The correctional officers do. So we basically become the slaves of the inmates. That's what it's like to be a correctional officer in the federal penitentiary, anyway. I can't speak for the state. I've heard it's so much worse in the state. But the thing that really makes the correctional officers angry is the rights that the inmates have. They do not lose their constitutional rights in prison. They should, but they don't. And they will let you know that. And some of these inmates are like makeshift lawyers, man. I mean, they know the Constitution better than than a constitutional lawyer does, because they got nothing to do but to read and study and everything, right? So they know their constitutional rights when it comes to searching their cells, and what you can and can't consider contraband, and can and can't throw away, and this and that. But I'm telling you, it's not worth it overall, I don't think. So when I hear about these correctional officers walking off the job, I'm not surprised. They want to live. They want to be husbands, or a lot of them females. They want to be wives and dads and moms, and they want to live, and they want to take care of their families, take care of their children and whatnot. And you can't do that when you're so understaffed, and you're working your butt off, 6 7 days a week, 12 16 hour shifts. That's what's happening from what I understand. And if people want to know more about this, go to the YouTube channel JLR Investigates. JLR Investigates. And he's doing a lot of good work, a lot of different topics, on the boots on the ground, on the scene, on a lot of different things. And, I shared it to the community page, and I share a lot of the things that I don't share to the community page, or the post, they call it now, to like the education or alert playlist. Things that I don't want to have to explain to people why I share it. And you definitely still have your critics out there, and people that want to call you out for this and that. So sometimes, to avoid all that, I'll just put it in the education or alert playlist, and people can look at it if they want to, or if they don't want to, then don't. I mean, I think it's still pretty pathetic that people have nothing better to do with their time than to call people out and saying, hey, why'd you share this, and why'd you share that, and why do you agree with this, and why do you agree with that? And this is like, I don't know, man. Just, I mean, my gosh, get a hobby, get a life. I don't know. Either watch it, don't watch it, look at it, don't look at it, listen to it, don't listen to it. It's your choice. I mean, everybody has choices. I mean, it's just like, give me a break. You know, some people just really, really pathetic and pitiful when it comes to this stuff. But anyway, yeah, check out JLR Investigates and some other things I'm sharing to the education alert playlist or what have you. And I just man, I understand. That's all I'm saying. I get it. I get it because I had my life threatened. I mean, especially when we had inmates locked down. After a while, you opened up the food slot, and they start getting crazy because they're locked in a cell where they can't get out. Usually, they can go into a common area. They can leave and go to the rec yard when it's rec time or whatever. But they have ways that they can at least wander around, walk the catwalk, up and down the stairs, hang out in the common area, watch TV, play chess or checkers or whatever other card game or whatever else. They have a little bit of freedom within the housing unit. And when it's time to go out, like I said, rec time, chow time, lunch time, whatever, then they have some freedom there. Rec moves, they call them, where they can go and to places to paint or play music or whatever, whatever rec time is for them, work out with weight, whatever it is, okay, being on the rec yard, all that jazz. But in lockdown, they can't do it. And I had one inmate, man, he tried to grab me through the food slot. It scared me bad, you know. But there were other times, when you're doing cell searches. I mean, I like to believe I saved some lives at times by finding weapons that were about to be used. One time I found a long shank, they call them, metal shank, under the pillow. People say, well, how did they get that stuff in there? Hey, man, when there's a will, there's a way. When you are one correctional officer for 128 inmates coming in and out, yeah, there's a metal detector and everything, but you're not going to stop everything. There ain't no way. It's impossible. And they know that. And, they hand things to each other, hand things off, and this and that. There's a will, there's a way. Okay. And you're only there for a period of time. And then there's another correctional officer in there. And some correctional officers are more actively engaged than others. Some of them actually patrol and they see what's going on and they look for things and they find contraband and that's hidden in the laundry room or wherever else, and cells and weapons and things like that. And others, they'll just sit up there in the office and literally let the inmates run the asylum, because nobody's really there monitoring or managing what the housing unit correctional officers are doing. So I'd like to think that I maybe saved some lives at times by, finding weapons. Like I said, one time it was like right underneath somebody's pillow. I think somebody was about to get shanked real fast. And that was going to happen on my shift. And they might have killed the dude. And it would have been bad. It would have been really bad. And I mean, I was in situations where people got cut up pretty bad. They got beat up pretty bad. It's bloody. It's violent. It's chaotic, and it's crazy. You're only one person, so you're not going to get involved when inmates are beating each other to death or trying to stab each other to death. What are you going to do? I mean, what can you really do? This is the insanity of what it's like to be in corrections, and this is how dangerous and crazy it is. So, like I said, I get it. I get it. And there's just so much lawlessness and chaos out there. I think I finally have a title for this. I didn't for a while, but it's just so much lawlessness and chaos out there, and getting into a couple other things here. I just found out, I got an email that pretty much the entire country of Chile is in a blackout right now, power grid failure, including the capital of Santiago. Basically, black power outages, power grid failure. I was like, whoa, That's interesting. That comes from Hal Turner Radio Show. That was last updated around 8:30 p.m. tonight Eastern Time. I don't know if there's been a recent update since that time. I don't think there has been. But lawlessness, chaos, right? I mean, the country of Cuba is in, basically it doesn't have power like 20 hours a day at certain times. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this is how it is in a lot of places where you're looking at a black screen now because, I'm in bed. I'm going to go to sleep soon, hopefully, But, I mean, just think about that. Being in the black, being in the power outages, power grid failures, or whatever, not knowing when the power is going to come back on, if it's going to come back on. Lawlessness and chaos. I mean, that's the world we live in now. That's what's happening. And a couple other things in the United States I found out today. I mean, just listening to things off and on, not getting a whole lot of details. And there are certain things I agree with and certain things I don't. There's certain things I share and certain things I don't, because I don't want to have things misconstrued or misinterpreted or what have you. But there there was a couple of things I heard earlier today that really got my attention. Well, last night actually it started and then continued into today. But the first one is comes from off-grid desert farming, and I don't agree with everything that Paul says, but I listen for the information at times for a little bit, off and on, as well as other people. Off and on, not like hours of a live stream. I don't have time for it. I'm busy. I'm working, like a lot of you, working in certain situations or taking care of kids, grandkids, whatever else, we've all got things on our plate we got to take care of and do and whatnot. But I catch things from time to time. And one of the things he was talking about earlier today was pretty crazy. Apparently, the regime now, the administration now, they want to cut veterans' benefits. That got my attention and it made me very angry too. If true, if true, um, that really made me mad listening to that. But it didn't surprise me. It just makes me mad. It irritates me, frustrates me because uh, as a veteran and as from a family of veterans and knowing of quite a few veterans, uh, the last thing you want to do is cut veterans benefits. The last thing you want to do is make a bunch of veterans angry, but they don't care. They don't care because it's all about appeasement with these people. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to give you $5,000 from our Doge investigations or whatever, but we're going to cut all the benefits for the veterans or some of the benefits, or we're going to cut this out or cut that out and trim the fat here and trim the fat there. I'm telling you, folks, I'm still very concerned about Social Security. We'll see what happens here and real soon. But the veterans benefits things, I was like, whoa, this is not cool. If true, if that happens, not cool, you know? So I'm like, all right. So, yeah, and I keep thinking about, give us our entitlements, the Shane Warren vision and other people, that had these visions or dreams over the years, we want our entitlements, give us our entitlements. People hitting the streets with all their signs, demanding their entitlements, demanding this, demanding that. And people say, oh, yeah, well, it's because people want welfare, or it's because they want their SNAP or their EBT or this or that. But what if it's they want their Social Security that they've earned? Or what if it's they want their veterans benefits that they earned? What if it's that people aren't just being lazy and selfish, but these are things that they actually earned, and that they're things that they're used to having, and things that they believe that they're entitled to, and things that they depend upon to a certain extent. And all of a sudden these things are cut. Well, I think, yeah, people might take to the streets demanding their entitlements or their benefits or whatever. It may be the other things as well, I don't know. But I'm thinking, what if it's veterans benefits? What if it's Social Security? What if it's those things that people hit the streets about? I think they have a right. I do. So it's going to get very interesting. So, I mean, that was one thing that I heard, and I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. But I don't share some of this stuff because people really are on this kick over on who is the son of perdition and this and that, and it's like, listen, I have my opinions, I have my beliefs, but I'm not going to share things where people just go on and on and on saying that 47 is that person. I don't believe he is. I don't. So I'm not going to share a lot of stuff where people are touting that and promoting it, you know. And if I do, it's just going to be for the information itself. But I don't believe that. There's certain things I just simply don't believe. I don't believe in a flat earth. I don't believe that 47 is the son of perdition. There's just certain things I don't believe. I don't believe in a pre-trib rapture. Uh, you know, None of these things are a salvation issue. But at the same time, it's just my personal beliefs, my personal opinions. Other people believe what they want to believe. Like I said, it's not a salvation issue. So you can believe whatever you want to believe. It's just me personally. I just don't believe these things. I believe the man, the son of perdition, what have you, is here, but I don't believe it's the man that's in office right now. And I'm not going to say anything more about that publicly. But I mean, there are just certain things that I just don't believe, eschatologically speaking, and just from a biblical viewpoint, biblical standpoint. Other people, they believe what they want, disagree with me or whatever, but it's some people, they just really go off on this, just like constantly on and on and on and on, and it's just like, listen, just put the information out there. I get it. You're sharing your information. You're sharing the 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 whole true social media thing, and I get it. I understand why people believe that he is the man. I get it. I completely understand it. I just personally don't believe it. So anyway, so there's certain things I just won't share because of that. And but there was another thing. Florida Maquis first hit on it last night, and then Redacted talked about it. Clayton Morris and so forth, and his wife Natalie a little bit earlier today. Different perspectives on it though, but it all has to do with the Epstein files. And Florida Maquis' video is very, very good, and I could see exactly why they don't want these files released. But of course, the excuse is, oh no, it's because they were destroyed by the FBI. Really? Interesting. Now, why would they be destroyed? Why would they all of a sudden? I thought they'd be redacted. Interesting, the show named Redacted. I thought they'd be redacted to omit certain names and information. Oh, but they want them destroyed. But do y'all see the game here? It's called appeasement. See, they want to appease the masses. Oh, we'll release this and release that. Oh, but we can't help it if it's destroyed, though. If somehow they're taken away or they're removed or we can't find them anymore. We did our job. We tried to release them. We tried to let the public know. We tried, just like they're going to pay us off with the $5,000 or whatever else that everybody will have to pay back, guaranteed. Don't you remember when they locked us all down like animals and then paid us to basically sit in our homes for doing nothing? All those stimuluses? Was that money free? Nope. Had to pay it back. Remember? Had to pay it back with your taxes, or they would do something else to make sure they got that money back. Nothing was free. Same thing all over again. But people don't remember. They don't learn. They don't listen. So it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna give you $5,000. Really? You're gonna pay it back. If you get it at all. It's appeasement. Just like they're going to appease people by saying, we're releasing this and we're releasing that. And we're going to tell you this truth and that truth. And this is going to be, revealed and so forth and so on. Oh, well, wait a minute. Oh, man, they destroyed the files. Oh, I guess we can't know the truth now. Oh, bummer. Now, why is that we wouldn't know? because they're trying to protect people, probably even themselves. Because, but if they say, oh yeah, we're totally transparent and we're going to release this and release that, and then people buy it hook, line, and sinker. They believe this garbage. They believe the lies. All they have to do is pull the rug and say, oh, well, oh, well, we tried, but they destroyed them. The deep state, the black hats, the bad guys, they got a hold of it all. And but we really want you people to know the truth. We really want you to know, but we're in a fight against the deep state, and we're still working on draining the swamp. And I'm just like, man, come on. Come on. People need to have some discernment. They need to have some discernment. And that's the thing that's seriously lacking. And that is why people are in trouble. And that's why they don't get it. Excuse me. And that's why they still fall into the traps. I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. People don't have discernment. And that's why they buy it all hook, line, and sinker. And they make excuses for a 78-year-old man. He doesn't know any better. He's he's being lied to by people. He's trusting the wrong people. He's got too many enemies. Like he doesn't know anything. Like, oh, poor guy. He doesn't know anything. Everybody's after him. Everybody's out to get him. Everybody's his enemy. Everybody's trying to hurt him. Everybody's trying to hurt this regime and administration. And it's like they don't know, really. Well, then you're a moron then, okay? Whose fault is it when you trust the wrong people? Okay, I mean, come on. I mean, seriously. But all people want to do is make excuses for their favorites all the time. They're just going to make excuses. Just like the New York State thing, Some people are going to make excuses for Kathy Hochul, the governor. Oh, she's doing the best she can and this and that. From what I hear, she's more concerned with the rights and the safety of the inmates than the correctional officers, you know, and how they can be provided for and how they can be protected. And doesn't care as much about the correctional officers. Pretty angry with the correctional officers because they have to use the National Guard to, you know, do the job of the correctional officers. But some people, like I said, those that are like really involved in the liberal policies, as they call them, or whatever, they'll be angry at the correctional officers. Like, no, you're supposed to live there. You're never supposed to go home and take care of your family, see your wife or children or husband or children or whatever the case may be. No, you're supposed to live there, and and until we can solve this problem and hire more, and to make sure that these inmates are taken care of. And it's like, uh-huh. Yeah, I don't think so. So how long do you think they're going to be able to keep the National Guard that, these are your citizen soldiers, right? A lot of them probably have jobs and probably, they might even be law enforcement or federal employees themselves or whatever, but they're in the National Guard as well. Well, I know firsthand that you don't get paid nearly as much being in the reserves of the National Guard, and you're going to lose a ton of money getting deployed, doing these type of things rather than working your regular job or whatever. So this is bad for the economy, bad for their family. How long you think it's going to last where the National Guard can continue to do the job of these correctional officers? Man, get ready for some lawlessness and chaos coming right down the pike very, very soon. So, anyway, getting pretty tired now. I'm going to go to bed. But I just had to get this out there for you all. Um, Lawlessness and chaos. I mean, that's going to be the mantra here. I mean, coming toward the end of February now, last week of February, into March, March 4th, you know, month of March, named after the Roman god Mars, the god of war. Okay, here we go. What are we hearing about? What are they always talking about? What are they mentioning? you know, we're entering that month now, month of March. Get ready, folks. Get ready for more lawlessness, more chaos, more insanity. March Madness. It's not just an NCAA basketball tournament, or I guess they just call it men's college basketball now. It's not just a basketball tournament. March Madness. Get ready for it. It's coming quick. All right, that's all I have. I think that's enough. Check out the post if you want for further information, education alert playlist, and I'll share other things as I have time. But like I said, I'm pretty busy, working full time, working a lot, like a lot of you, taking care of business, doing what you got to do. But I'll try to keep people updated, and posted, and post things as much as I can. All right, y'all have a good, blessed, safe night. Take care. Bye bye.